Hi, and welcome to Spirit Speaks. I'm your host, Lisa Virtue. I have a very inspirational guest today, Susan Walter. Susan has had multiple NDEs, and what I find even more amazing beyond her story of her NDEs is what's happened since she's come back from that. She is now able to see angels. So I'd like to introduce you to Susan and hear her story of everything that occurred and how this has integrated into her life afterwards and what she's managed to do with that. So welcome to the show, Susan. It's really lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I've been enjoying your show.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, why don't we just get started with what led up to you having an NDE and how old were you at the time?
I've had two. The first one was at 4. The second was at 6. Both were caused by the same issue. I actually had ruptured hernias, which I know is
Oh,
unusual for little girls, but both times had to have a life-saving surgeries as a result.
wow. Well, obviously you made it through, which we're very glad that you did.
So were my
Um,
parents at the time.
yeah. So we're going to talk about what you do now in your life now, kind of after. I want to get into
Okay.
the story because then I think that helps inform us as what you've emerged as in your life. So so take us through the first instance. Like how did that transpire, and then what occurred?
To be honest, I don't really remember the details leading up to it. It's more what I've been told, and even my mom chooses kind of not to remember some of the details because it was traumatic.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I remember just kind of laying on the couch, and there was blankets on top of me, and they just felt really, really heavy, so heavy that I didn't feel like I could move, and I was had a very high fever as a result of of the rupture, and being very, very uncomfortable.
Mm.
Um, Even before, yeah, and I remember the doctor actually came to the house to
Wow.
see me and what was going on, which, yeah, that doesn't happen anymore, but it still did some
No.
then, especially in small rural communities in Iowa where I was, being raised on a farm. But yeah, even before, I remember the doctor coming to the house, but then I don't remember, you know, how I got to the hospital, any of that.
Right.
It's just,
Like the movie Cut
I mean,
to in the hospital.
yeah, and I went to this beautiful garden where there's massive trees that, were just, they were huge. And at the time, I, of course, had never seen anything like a redwood, but that's what I would now associate, kind of the
Ah,
size to.
okay.
Because, even the angels were underneath the canopy of the tree and were not able to, to reach the branches. That's how
Wow.
big they were. But there was just flowers everywhere. There seemed to be little, like little animals, like what I was used to seeing on the farm there. Rabbits and turtles and and mice and just things like that. Because as a little kid growing up,
Hmm.
if there was a nest of baby rabbits or baby mice or snakes or whatever, I found them, and I would just very gently play with them in my hands and then put them right back where I found them.
Nice. Oh.
But yeah, so when I got to to this beautiful garden, and um, of the I was greeted by 3 angels,
Hmm.
and one of them knelt down to me and seemed to speak to me, though it wasn't words, it was through that in my head.
Telepathy. Yeah.
Also, I don't and have never seen faces.
Of
So,
angels? Or
yeah,
right.
even in my experience, they didn't seem to, and part of that I think is because they just radiated so much light
Mm.
that, that's one detail I have never seen.
Right. They're lit up so much that the details are obscured, or maybe they
Hmm.
just don't have details. Yeah.
Right.
And what did you know about these angels?
All I knew about them is what I'd heard about angels in Sunday school.
Okay.
I immediately just, somehow I just knew that's what I was seeing.
Hmm.
And I've never had any doubts about that. But, the one knelt down and seemed to speak to me. At least I heard him in my head. And they really just asked me, in the first one, if I wanted to see the world through the eyes of the animals.
Oh, cool.
Because that's just what, it's like they were just occupying my time while I was there.
Okay.
And they dealt with me, because I seemed to take enough of my conscious with me that I was still just a 4-year-old.
Right.
And that's how they addressed me. And that's how, so, I seemed to like start in, I believe it was a rabbit. And I just kind of seemed to move from animal to animal from time to time.
Hmm.
And it seemed like each animal seemed to be larger.
Okay.
Until eventually I was swimming in the ocean in what I believe is, it was definitely a whale of some sort, probably a blue whale.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden I wasn't swimming in the ocean anymore. It was like I was swimming in space.
Wow.
It was and it was so much more freeing.
Mm. I'm really curious
Mhm.
about the
Yeah.
animals and what that
Mhm.
perception was like. I did a video before about animal communication and connecting with them. So I know that was a long time ago when you were 4, but is there anything you can remember about what that was like seeing through the animal's perspective that might help us understand animals now?
Everything just seems so much even bigger
Right?
because nobody's ever really asked me that before.
Uh-huh.
I just remember feeling very small, but not intimidated or not fearful as a result of it.
Okay.
Is really about all I can say.
Mm. To your recollection, not so much of details of, how the animals live or think, just more seeing from their
Hmm.
eyes type of thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah. Seeing the perspective through their eyes, and I didn't seem to stay any place very long.
Right.
It seemed to transpire, at least from my perspective, very, very quickly.
Okay. Okay. Well, continue
But
on. Yeah.
yeah. And then, once I was in space, it was like some sort of movie screen type of thing that seemed very large, where I was seeing what appeared to be like a, God source,
Mm-hmm.
but there was all these souls coming from that space.
Oh.
It was almost like every exhale there was more beings, more souls. And then it's like there was a space where every soul's kind of deciding what they're going to do
So was it like
at
these
that
souls
point.
were kind of being like born, you would say, or just they were just
Um,
emerging from there?
they were emerging.
Okay.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and and it seemed like, but the majority of them were moving into different spaces of the angelic realms.
Okay.
And that's where I was going. And then all of a sudden, it's like I was pulled aside, and they pulled aside me and 2 other beings at the same time.
Okay.
And they asked us to be what they called planet creators. I'm still trying to understand what that even means.
Hmm.
And we were shown kind of how things would transpire here on Earth if we did and if we didn't.
Oh,
The other 2 beings actually decided not to and continued on to the angelic realms.
okay. Just to preface, the other beings you're seeing, was it like they were all crossing over in that
Yeah, they
group?
were all moving into, like, it seemed like different layers of density, of
Right.
physicality.
So like
Like some were,
sorry. um,
yeah, and it almost, in a way, it almost looked like different layers of a big building, but much more massive. And it seemed like, you know, in the layers of the building up towards the top,
mhm.
things were much, much more transparent and much more lucent.
Right. So in our way, almost like
Mhm.
a moving through school from from kindergarten
Mm-hmm.
to, grade 12 or whatever,
Yeah.
or maybe through,
Mm-hmm.
life on Earth, then life in that realm layer and that realm layer, and just moving through different explorations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there almost seem to be different music is the best way words I can use to, it associated with each of these different layers.
Wow, that's very fascinating.
And like I said, that I obviously chose to come, to take physical form. So then it was, yeah, and that's kind of where the vision ended. And and then I just seemed to be, kind of floating in that space for a while before I seemed to wake up. And I just kind of really just kind of almost played with my body is the best word I can use, but that's obviously not, it wasn't that dense.
Hmm.
But it just seemed to play in the energy of what I guess would be the void that a lot of us speak about. And then the next thing I remember is waking up.
You're saying those other two souls continued on,
Yes.
and so you selected to be the planet
Mhm.
creator. Is that what that choice was?
Yeah, whatever that means.
Wow.
And and I wondered too if because we all talk about being that we're part of the creator and we're all truly one. I think that's probably just the words they use to describe it.
Right.
I think we're all capable of that.
Hmm.
We've all managed to create this beautiful world that we live on,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it's up to just like one being to create a planet. It's,
Like a co-creative.
something we do together. Mm-hmm.
And so you were floating in the void and playing around with what that experience was like. And
Mm-hmm.
then did that just end all of a sudden, or what happened after that?
The next thing I remember is waking up.
Okay.
I remember more details of waking up the second one than I do the first one.
In between the two occurrences, is this something that did you share with your parents the experience or not, or what happened with that?
I tried to, but mind of a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Um, and even if I had heard the term near death experience, it actually wasn't even coined for another 20, 15 or 20 years or something. I don't
Right.
remember
Yeah.
exactly when they started using that term, but it didn't exist at that time.
Right.
And, and doctors sure wouldn't have known how, and still don't know how to explain that or use, they try to kind of stay out of that.
Yeah, yeah. And so would you talk about, oh, I was talking to the angels, or I saw things, or your parents like, okay.
Yeah, I think what I talked about the most was um, when I was a snake, when I was a rabbit.
Oh, cool.
And of course, that did not go over well.
Right. Okay. And so how much longer was it until the second occurrence?
A little less than 2 years. It was actually in July of 67 when I had the second one. Um, really, the only difference was I remember asking questions at first about things I was being taught on Sunday school,
Okay.
and I remember them. It kind of the sensation of just being kind of patted on top of the head, kind of it's okay, and that and there being laughter at that, and of course it was not just what I was being taught; it was my understanding of what I was being taught.
Right. Can you remember any of
The real
those questions and answers?
not specifically. Um, I do remember, except for the one question I did ask, and I continued to ask it several times in Sunday school afterwards and got in trouble for this.
Okay.
Because I remember because in my mind, as a child, God was bigger than us.
Right.
So God's day should be bigger than us. So I was always asking, how long is God's day? And that is from where that's where I got the understanding that to angels, time isn't the same for them as it is for us.
Hmm.
And they really don't understand time very well.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you can ask an angel, you're like, yeah, when something, something is going to come to fruition. And they'll say soon.
Right.
Well, soon to us could mean a few days to, maybe a couple of weeks. To them, it's half a lifetime, it seems like, in some instances.
Yeah.
Because they've not experienced time, so yeah, they don't really understand that very well.
And so in this experience you're having, did you meet with animals again, or did you see any of these other realms, or was there something different this time?
Really, it was very, very similar. Very similar. I remember, like swimming in space,
Hmm.
again, and swimming is the best word I can use, because
Sounds like fun.
because there isn't anything solid. Yeah, it seemed like there, so you just kind of you literally just move through it.
And I'm assuming that this was all a joyful experience for you or a positive experience.
Yes. It was, yeah, there was nothing fearful for me at all. I enjoyed it very much.
Would you say, a lot of people who cross over talk about that feeling of unconditional love and the overwhelmingness of
hmm
that is was that in your experience or as a child? I think we're not jaded yet, perhaps already in
Yeah.
that. So is that something that was noticeable for you?
Yes, it was. Because it was like I didn't have to do what mom said to make mom happy.
Right.
I was just immediately just accepted you know, for who I was and what I was, which was just, just a child.
Yeah.
And to me, it was just, a great place to go play.
Now, you've said that after your experiences, you've come to be able to see angels. Is that something during your experience that was addressed, or does this just occur after?
After the experience, I was able to just see my own all the time. They very seldom left my side.
Ah,
It seemed like the only times they did is when I would think about somebody else that I was worried about, like if my, grandmother wasn't feeling well or something like that, or I was concerned about a friend. They seemed to like go check on them.
oh,
And when I think about somebody, sometimes if I wanted to say something to them, it's like they would go give those messages.
right.
And there was sometimes, like when I go someplace, I'd go there and they'd already be there. Like if I'd go to school, for example, and they'd already be there waiting for me.
Right. They didn't like walk with you to school.
Yeah, they didn't always ride the bus with me.
Yeah.
So most of them did, but not all of them. But that was something that's happened sometimes.
And was there a consistent number of them?
Um, yeah, there was. hmm
Yeah.
There
How
was.
many would be with you?
At the time, I didn't understand it and really didn't think anything of it. There was usually, like 15.
Wow. Big
hmm
team.
Yes. Over time, I've learned that the more you have, it's like the more work you have to do.
Yeah. I was just gonna say something like that. What does that mean? I mean, I
hmm
as well have noticed quite a few around, and different people seem to have different experiences with how many they feel are
hmm
present at any time.
And I've also noticed there's times that, and I didn't notice this as a child, but as I've become an adult, the there seems to be other groups that they seem to come angels that come and help me work on projects and do different things, but they're not necessarily my personal angels, and they're not necessarily with me at all times. They're just with me when I'm working on that project.
Right. They're like an expert in the field that comes when they're needed, and when they're not needed for that, they're
hmm
off doing something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that really relates to my experience with channeling. I find there's, a core group, but depending on what message is needed, like an expert comes in
Mm-hmm.
and delivers that message, or maybe it's someone's guides or something. So yeah, I like how that matches up. So as you were saying, you were seeing your own angels growing up. Is
Mm-hmm.
this again, is this something that you were sharing with other people, or did you keep it to yourself? Or what was that experience like, being able to see that when most people couldn't?
When I was 7, my dad actually, and I was telling one of my stories at dinner, and I'm using the word stories because that's the word my dad used.
Hmm.
Um, and he actually, his exact words were, "Quit telling those stories, quit telling those lies."
Oh,
So I just quit talking about it.
yeah. Oh, that's
I
that.
didn't quit seeing them or didn't quit experiencing that. I just quit talking about it.
Yeah. And how long did it take until you did start talking about them?
I really didn't start talking about it again until I was in my 30s, and when I noticed I wasn't just seeing my own anymore, that I was actually starting to see everybody else's as well.
Ooh, how did you realize, like, how, was there something that occurred, or you just started to
Yeah,
realize, or?
there's nothing that happened in my life that I can relate to that was, you know, I did notice at home there seemed to be a few more present, but I really didn't think a whole lot of it and until I went to the grocery store
Okay.
one day, and that's when I know, because these beings, they're usually 15 to 18 feet tall. They're
Wow.
massive. And I went to the grocery store, and that's when I realized I was seeing a whole lot more angels than I was used to. And it freaked me out enough at the moment that I actually just kind of left the grocery cart in the middle of the aisle and went home.
Whoa, this is too much. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And over the next few days, because at the time I had 2 teenage boys and 2 toddlers, so I was a little busy.
Yeah,
And it seemed like every time mom sits down to, try and meditate and take a few minutes for herself, somebody needs something. You know how that
of
works.
course.
So it took a few days till I was able to sit down and really, go into meditation and ask, what the heck's going on here? Why me? What am I supposed to do with this? All those questions that any of us would ask.
Yeah. And were you having a dialogue with the angels all along, or were you just sort of seeing them and not having communication?
Communication was kind of off and on. And it has always seemed there seems to be some of them that it's like they still talk in their own language, and I've never been able to fully understand it. It's like I can get bits and pieces.
Ah.
And, I have asked for an interpreter, but that still seems to have come to fruition just yet. Yeah, there's still some of them that, they refuse to speak English.
That's fascinating. I never would have thought of that. And just with that, just my curiosity going, I'm assuming they're speaking some sort of angel language,
Hmm.
or would you notice as you were starting to see them with other people, would they be communicating in that person's language if they spoke a different language than you?
I would assume so. I know when they talk to me, they either, most of them speak in English or use pictures.
Yeah, they're trying to communicate with you, so yeah.
Yeah, they'll show me a photograph just like real quick, and I'm supposed to, manage to grab it somehow.
And interpret it. Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Has that evolved for you over your time with them? How you're communicating? Did it, maybe start off not clear and you develop a system or get better,
Um,
or is it just kind of stay the same?
it has gotten a little easier for me than it used to be. I would, it's still not as smooth as I would like it to be. It's still, improving, a little bit at a time. One of the things I have done that just to make life a little easier for me is I've learned what I use the words turning down the volume,
Okay.
where I don't see them in, in their full, full
Glory.
energy anymore. I see like balls of color that's just constantly moving, and they can be different sizes. Sometimes they're still really big, and sometimes they're fairly small. But it's just like color that's just constantly moving.
And is that just because they take up so much space in your vision?
No, it was really for me. It was more. It was just part of what made it a little easier, just day to day to be able to go to the store and you know go to the kids baseball game or soccer game or just those things like that where there was large groups of people. It just made things a little easier.
Yeah, so it's not feeling as crowded, it's more
Yes, uh-huh.
manageable sizes.
Yeah, it just makes the energy of it a little more manageable
That makes sense.
and not so distracting. Not so distracting too.
Right.
Because sometimes when you're communicating with somebody and we got their angels like trying to talk to me or just moving around, it can be distracting, and it's less distracting this way.
That makes sense. Since I've been on my spiritual journey, I'm a very visual person, and so one of the first things I'm like, I want to see the angels. Like, I want to see angels. I want to see angels. And I know that if you're desperate for something, it kind of pushes it away. So, you know, as my gifts develop, Spirit was like, you have all these other gifts. Do you need to see? Like, can you not just enjoy the rest of these things? I'm like, yeah, okay, but still, it would be great to see the angels. But now talking to you, it's like, well, they might get a little bit crowded and distracting too.
Exactly. Just like for people that see auras all the time and things like that can be distracting.
Yeah.
Not seeing them in full form all the time has also been a great tool for me. Then when I do set with somebody to draw their angel portrait, then just one will step forward and take shape and define color, and that's how I know which one I'm supposed to draw. So it makes that process easier as well.
Right. So they're defining, here's the one that we want you to highlight for the person.
Mhm.
So it's not just
Yeah.
talking. Wonderful.
And I always just ask, the one that's in their best and highest good at this moment in
Ah.
time.
Well, as people can see behind me here, we have already met so that you could do an angel portrait for me because I thought people would be really interested in that and they could see, what transpired and what angel showed up for me. Um, is there anything you can say about that process or how, and I mean, for me or for others as well, kind of how that works when you're doing it?
I need to see the person's eyes.
Okay.
So I can do it in person. I have also learned to do it from photograph. But in the last year, just because all the craziness going on, and last March I started doing it via Zoom, obviously, and that's how we communicated since we're in different parts of the world right now.
Yeah.
But as soon as I see the person's eyes, and that's our intention is to draw an angel portrait at that time. First, they show me like just what color paper I'm supposed to use, because I've ahead of time I've got set in even because I'm sitting at my art desk here, I've probably got anywhere from 50 to 75 pieces of paper already has a watercolor wash on it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I even do kind of play with different patterns with the watercolor.
Right.
Then they'll show me, the shape of the body is always pretty much is always the same. Their arms are almost seem to be always outstretched because they're ready to exchange energy or embrace in any way you need it at any time. Once in a while, it seems like one is reaching more straight out forward, like they're trying to hand you something.
Mm.
But that doesn't happen very often. But so I always draw what we would think of as the body first.
Uh-huh.
And once that is nearly done, then they'll start showing me the colors for the wings.
Okay.
They're not yet showing me the patterns,
Right.
but they'll show me the colors first. And it's really not until I start picking up those pencils to draw the wings, they'll start, giving me the pattern a little bit at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Or what we think of as wings, because light beings don't need wings, but
Right.
it's like their fingerprints. I've never seen two be exactly alike. I've seen some similarities, after doing this for over 20 years.
Right.
Everyone seems to be just a little bit different. And then, and then I do that light language that goes down the center of the body.
Okay.
And to be honest, I've only been seeing that for a little over 2 years now.
Oh, perhaps it has to do with our evolution process.
Yeah, it was like we were around, was it 20? I started seeing that probably about right around October, November of 2018.
Okay.
Was when I started seeing that. And at first it wasn't even all the time, but now it is. And it is almost always starting at the throat and going down the center of the body. Once in a while I have seen it in the wings or in the arms.
And is that, so you're saying that they're giving it to you, so they're giving you an impression, or like the light language would just be something that they're, saying that they want to communicate, or would that be something that you would see just on the angel all the time?
Yeah, it is now. Now it is something I see all the time, and it is when I draw that, it is a message to you from your, to your higher self from your angels. So it is not something you need to consciously understand what it means, and I know I don't know what it means either.
Right.
I've been told that we will be able to read it at some point. We just can't yet.
Right. Be patient.
The last detail they give me after I do that light language is part of their name. Their full name would take us about 15 to 20 minutes to pronounce. It is very tonal, almost musical, somewhere between musical and chanting, kind of in that, But because we need something shorter than that, they spell for me a piece of it.
Right.
I am never to pronounce it, but the pronunciation is just what feels right to you. There's no right or wrong. And if you want to abbreviate it further, that's okay too. Because they're not normal.
They're not hung up on names.
Normal names like Ruth and Bob. They come at, it's in their language.
Right.
Yeah, so it's as close as we can get, in human English.
Right. I'm curious with the wings. So in mine, over here, they look kind of heart-shaped, and they have kind of like tassel drip coming down from them. Is that a common shape to have it heart-shaped, or what would you interpret that to be, or do you just not interpret?
I don't really interpret that. The drip, sometimes it seems like the energy is just kind of almost dripping off of it. Because that's really what it is. It's really energy.
Right.
And part of their energy pattern. It's more the colors that have significance than the pattern itself. And I know I personally don't remember, but I do with each time I do an angel portrait, and you'll find this info on my website if for those of you that look in the angel portraits, where each color does have a specific meaning. It has to do with what energies they're bringing into your life and what lessons they're helping you with at this time.
Right.
But yeah, so you do get that information when I do.
Right. I'll double check your chart, but I'm getting some understanding just looking at that.
Yeah, and you can also do numerology with the name that they give me as well, and get some further insights that way.
Oh, excellent. Oh, that's one of lots of deep information about that.
Yeah, I'm not a numerologist, but there is plenty of information on the internet and places about that.
And when you started doing the art, is that just you just felt inspired, or did they suggest that you do that? How did that come to be?
yeah, that's what they taught me how to do first. Yeah, and that's, what they asked me, or actually, pretty much, they didn't really ask. They pretty much just told me this is what I was going to do
This is
with
what we're doing.
being able to see. Yeah, that it didn't seem to be much of an option, though. I did try to argue for about 6 months or so, um, because, I didn't know how to draw. I didn't know how to paint. I
Mm.
dreamed about being an artist when I was a kid. When I found out, when I was probably like 10 or 11, I found out in history class I was born the same day as Michelangelo. I thought that meant something,
Right.
Found out it really didn't.
Well, turns out it did.
Well, it didn't, yeah. I just wasn't inspired yet,
Right.
is
Yeah.
kind of how I looked at it. And because I wasn't inspired, I didn't practice.
Of course.
Because we're all capable of doing so many different things. We all have the ability,
Yeah, we just need
but
to be
we don't have
inspired towards it.
we don't need to be inspired to have the passion to take the time to practice.
Mhm.
Yeah, even an amazing, athlete, they have to practice
Absolutely.
and develop their skills, develop their body to be able to do that. It's, to be an artist is the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, all things. And I've been talking to people lately about meditating, and I'm like, it takes practice like anything else. Whatever you want to get good at.
Hmm.
So you've been doing some other kinds of art as well.
Yes.
And so was that also angel directed, or how did you decide that that was a thing?
It was other groups that have helped me, like the mandalas that I do.
Hmm.
Um, I have a group, they call themselves the Guardians of the Solfeggio, that help me with that.
Ah,
Because the mandalas are all based on what is called the solfeggio frequencies, which are very specific healing hertz frequencies. They can help us align with our original blueprint.
and so just for clarity, it's a group of angels that are guiding you in this,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
not a group of humans.
Exactly.
And so did you have an intention at the beginning, or did they tell you this is exactly what we're doing, or it's sort of a flow and evolves? You find out
Um,
the application for it?
they actually used another person to inspire me.
Ah,
A person that is a local healer and teacher here in the Kansas City area. He came to me right at the whole mandalas started when I actually had a friend of mine call me one Saturday morning and say, I see you drawing mandalas and you're doing them at like fairs and you're doing them for about people's energy. And I was like, that sounds a bit overwhelming and like way too intense. And I had never drawn mandalas at the time. And actually it was, I was getting, one of the things I did then with, I don't remember if it was that day or the next day, but I was out shopping, searching for a gift for my mother
okay.
for, I think it was for Mother's Day, but, and I came across this old antique toy that just looked absolutely fascinating to me at the time. It was called the Hoot Nanny, which is actually the grandfather to the Spirograph.
Oh, I had a spirograph. Lots of fun.
Yeah, so a lot of us did as kids, but this is an old metal toy from probably, 40s, 50s era.
Hmm.
And you can still see them quite often in the antique stores and even on eBay and places. But and I was using the line drawings from that toy then to create mandalas, and I was just playing with them, and I'd posted a couple on Facebook. And this person reached out to me and goes, hey, I'm teaching this class about the Solfeggio frequencies. I'd like you to draw a mandala based on one of them. And here's the music that I did based on this frequency.
Mm,
Why don't you listen to the music, see what you get?
cool.
So it was, and to be honest, I was totally blown away with what happened and what came out.
Wow. Love that.
So from there, I ended up, he was teaching a class of series of 6 based on 6 of the earthly solfeggio frequencies. So I ended up doing a mandala for each one of those. And then I started researching,
Okay.
what are solfeggios? What do they do? Just, and then from that, I found out there wasn't just 6, that there was actually 9 different sets of frequencies, and there was 9 in each set.
Oh.
And that this was all based on Pythagorean math and in sacred geometry, and was actually had quite a long history.
Wow.
It was even said that the Gregorian chants used up and through the 1600s in the Catholic Church, those were actually sung in the solfeggio frequencies.
Oh.
And the story goes that at the time the church lost the frequencies. The story is the reason they lost them is because people were having a spiritual, experiences and communicating directly with the Creator, and the Catholic Church can't have that because they can't control that then.
Right. Ah, that's fascinating. Oh, I hadn't heard that before. So now you're using that directly with people one-on-one?
No, I ended up the one-on-one was just a little overwhelming because the mandalas that I create, each one actually takes anywhere from 30 to 45 hours for me to create.
Oh
So
my
doing
gosh.
them one individually doesn't really work.
No, real dedication to that.
Yes, but I did create then a mandala for each one of those 81 frequencies.
Did you put those in cards, or how, if we're all interested in that, how would we
Yeah.
get those?
Yes, I do have coloring books,
Oh, cool.
and I also do have the cards.
Ah, nice.
Mm-hmm. And then each card will actually say, what frequency it is, what set it's in, and then like a little 2 to 4 word phrase about what that one is specifically for. And there's more info on my website and in the coloring book as well.
I can see putting, not that it's a coaster, but you could put your water on that to be energized by that energy.
And that is one of the things that I actually do with them. I also put them you can put them in your pillow when you sleep at night. People have put them underneath their massage table when they were sharing energy with people. I held them to my body during meditation.
Right.
I've even sat on them, but I've charged water, but essential oils, herbs, crystals, different stones,
everything you can think of. It's a beautiful, like you said, like a blueprint of energy, of
Yes.
helpful energy. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Now, I think you mentioned to me, I heard you say the word singing bowl. Are you using bowls? I play. I engage with the singing bowls myself. So that's a curiosity of mine. Is that tied in with your solfeggio?
The bowls that I have are all solfeggio frequency bowls.
Nice.
And presently I have 9 bowls.
Love it.
Yeah, and I use the word play.
Yeah.
We all need to play just a little bit more. We all get a little too serious.
It's true. It's true. Life is meant to be fun and joyful and full of laughter. Just like in your NDE,
Yes.
full of laughter.
It is.
Oh, this has been wonderful. Is there anything that we haven't covered that might be interesting for people, or have we got?
It might be interesting to know about my present project that I'm working on.
Okay.
Because I've continued to be curious about the use of different frequencies. And one frequency, it could be a frequency that the 144,000 that is even mentioned, in the Bible as the way showers. I believe the 144 is another one of these frequencies because I don't think it's actually specifically solfeggio, but it is still uses the concept of adding up. When you add the digits up, they add up to either 3, 6, or 9.
Right.
So 144, adds up to 9. And then the next one in that set is 255, which then adds up to 12, which is a 3. So yeah, and that goes on. But so I am working on a set of fruit mandalas like that one. I am presently actually, this one is not quite finished yet, but this is what I'm working on 588.
Oh, wow.
So that's where it's at right now. So all the original drawings for the mandalas, I do with colored pencil on, 8.5 by 11 paper, and then of course there's then scanned and put into the computer, and that's how I create the cards and the coloring books and stuff. But
Nice.
yeah, that's my present project. And from my understanding of working with these frequencies, they're frequencies that will assist us in experiencing more of what is referred to as the 5D energies. Because it's like those different dimensions or frequencies, whatever they truly are, they're around us all the time.
Right. It's us
They're
tuning into them.
It's us tuning into them, and we're just experiencing more and more time in those different frequencies.
Right. So,
But these are, my understand, these are tools that can help us experience that even more.
yeah. And just for those who aren't familiar, the 5D would be like a higher vibrational, pure love-based reality, I guess, level of experience.
Yes. And the D stands for dimension, which dimension, reality, experience.
Yeah.
It all seems to be pretty much the same thing. But
Yeah.
and I think of it more as because as humans, we tend to think of as higher, lower,
Yeah.
as being better or worse. I think of it really more as faster and slower,
Right.
just because it helps remove those connotations implying that one is better than another, because it's really not.
Yeah, they're all experiences.
Yeah, they're experiences, and it's not a bad thing to be in kindergarten when you're 5.
Exactly.
It would be a bad thing to be in college when you're 5. So you need
Yes.
be what where you're ready for
I love that way of expressing it. That's a great way to share, because I think it does happen in spiritual circles where people are like, oh, I'm more high vibration than you, as a thing, which just doesn't make any sense.
And if you have to say that, you're probably really not.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
And we're not ready to be experiencing 5D or what most people would think of as above that is like 60 or 70. We're not ready to being in that frequency all the time yet. Right. If we were,
we'd be there.
We came here to experience the 3D and these, amazing sleeves that we wear.
Yeah. I feel like for me, what I've been perceiving is the experience now is this evolution, let's call it, or always evolving, but we're experiencing more and more of this type of vibration, and we're, I was going to say raising ourselves up, but that's not the right word to use anymore. But we're experiencing the transformation.
Right.
So that's part of this journey right now, is to be here for the transformation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just about the destination; it's about the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful gift and your inspirations, and actually taking hold of that and going with it, because you have the option not to, and I'm so glad that you elected to walk that path and share it with everybody. And thank you for this beautiful portrait of my angel. Love it.
Good.
And what is your website and contact? Where can people find you to get in touch with you and take part in what you have to share?
My website is susanwalterart.com.
Okay.
And I can be found on Facebook and Instagram, also under that tag as Susan Walter Art as well.
Wonderful. Well, I hope people reach out when they feel inspired and can connect with you. Thanks for taking this time. I really appreciate your conversation and sharing this world of wonder that you've experienced.
Hey, we're all experiencing it
It's true, but in
in
your
our own
special
way.
way. I love to hear the special ways people are interfacing with the angelic and spirit and all this new transformation. So I find it very inspiring.
Thank you. And I look forward to hearing more of your podcasts and more about your channeling as well.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to sharing my
Okay.
version of my experience. All right. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. I hope you join in for more of our beautiful explorations of our experience on Earth and the inspiring stories people have to share. Until next time.